And now, Gimmick Infringement.
Welcome to the Gimmick Infringement Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Tyler McDowell Blanken. I am, of course, joined by my co-host, the incomparable Brad Winchester, and we are joined by one of our favorite people in this space, the one, the only. His face looks familiar if you're on YouTube with us. In a moment, his voice will sound familiar if you're tapping in with us on audio. He is the host and creator of Hip to the Games. Our fellow 19 Media Group teammate, Desmond Powell, is back. Des, welcome back to the show. How you been?
What's up, guys? I know we talked pre-show. This is long overdue. I am so geeked to be with both of y'all for this episode and talking the WNBA and a lot of other things, I'm sure. I'm excited, man. I'm excited. I can't say it enough.
We've been looking forward to this for a while. Brad, How you feeling? We're talking W, we're talking Drake's comeback, we're talking sneakers in 2025. How you feeling?
I feel really good. Drake's comeback, huh? Yeah, I feel like it's a well, I can't wait to get into that.
I've been thinking about it a lot. This is going to be a memorable episode.
This is going to be interesting. Yeah, I can't wait. We have not talked about this previously. I can't wait to hear your thoughts. I'm excited. I have been waiting to do something with Des for a really long time. 19 Zone, ever since Des also a musician, and I want to give you props for that. Ever since I got to scoop up your song, I believe on Apple Music, you can go check that out. Really, really, really cool stuff. So I've been looking forward to this for a long time.
No, that's love, Brad. I appreciate that. And I'll even say this. Now, I don't even know, Brad, if you heard me tell this story, but I think Tyler might have heard me tell it before. But to finally be on GI, I have to tell it. When I joined 19, and it was like the early stages. I hadn't made a show officially yet or nothing like that. And I was like, let me check out the network. Let me see, make sure I'm tapped in before I step in. And I'm like, man, all these shows are like 45 minutes, 50 minutes. Like, are they ready for somebody that is crazy enough to talk for an hour and 45 by themselves, let alone a team show by themselves? Mm-hmm. And I saw this show called Gimmick Infringement. And I'm like, okay, 50 minutes. They do the 50-minute thing, but then I kept scrolling and I see like hour 30, hour 25. And I'm like, these are my people. Who is Brad and Tyler? Like, I need to get with them quickly because they are my type of crazy. If they can talk this long about a topic and I can, like, yeah, I made the right decision. So this is a full circle kind of thing for me. Yeah.
Very full circle. I'm glad we found each other. Well, Des, you are prolific, my friend. Again, of course, you have the podcast. You've contributed to our website, gimmickinfringementpod.com, multiple articles there. Before we get into W Talk, now that we're at the All-Star break, would love for our audience to hear how things are going at Hip to the Games and with all your amazing content, discussing Summer League, recapping the draft. How's everything over there on H2DG going?
Oh yeah, I appreciate that question. Everything is good, I would say. Always trying to grow. You guys know the podcast game. My recent episode at the time of this recording was a off-season awards special kind of thing. So I made some custom awards, and I got a little help from Chat GPT. I won't lie, but I made some custom awards kind of in the form of like a hip hop Grammy kind of thing, but translated it to the off-season, like best acquisition. The Oviedo Award, like
so the Oviedo Award. You should love the Cam Johnson, former Phoenix Sun. We love that.
Of course. Yeah. One of my favorite off-season acquisitions. I've been saying it all summer. But yeah, everything's rolling pretty good on the H2DG side. Definitely want to get into another album review this summer. That's my big goal, to do that. Something from Kendrick Lamar. So listeners can look forward to that. I still got to pick the album and whatnot, but that's something that I definitely want to do. Obviously, coming up this summer, I'd like to do my You Had to Be There episodes. So wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I would like both of you, to come on and show love to a player of the past. I think, again, with Hip to the Games being about celebrating and being positive about basketball and hip hop, those are some of the ways I'm able to do that. So it's been going pretty good.
We love
it's amazing. Des. Amazing.
Yeah. Well, be sure to follow Des and support his work at Desmond Powell _ across social. Des, Brad, I think it's time that we talk W. So I am at the stage of my fandom where, and I think part of it is the brilliance of the W and its athletes, and then also the schedule being half of the NBA. I am way more locked into the W regular season than I am the NBA. So I have a lot of thoughts and questions for you guys, and I think the best place to start is to discuss the surprises of the first half of this 2025 WNBA season. So our Phoenix Mercury, Brad Winchester.
Yes.
As of this recording, the Mercury have the second best record in the league. Brad, on GI here, I'll often say I'm right 10% of the time.
Yes.
Which means the other 90% I'm wrong.
Yeah.
The Mercury are in that 90%. I did not expect the team to not only be in playoff contention, but to have one of the best records across the W. So I first want to acknowledge that I'm glad I was wrong. And it's amazing to see that, the trio of Satu Sabali, Alyssa Thomas, and Kalia Copper having returned from injury has just been amazing. The role players have been fantastic. Des, the Golden State Valkyries. In our notes, our pod outline, what about the Valkyries? Everything.
Yeah.
They've been a stellar surprise, probably a playoff team. We shall see in the coming weeks. And then also you have a team like the Las Vegas Aces, who were once feared and seemed unstoppable. They've fallen back to earth with their new roster. So want to start here. Des, we'll lob it up to you first. What has surprised you most about the first half of the WNBA season in 2025?
So I'm definitely with you on the Phoenix Mercury. I know I spoke to you before of like, I just found it weird that with a team of Brittany Griner, Diana, Kai Copper, Natasha Cloud, how they couldn't do just as well as the team that we're seeing today. But I think quite honestly, I think the biggest part of that is Alyssa Thomas. I think because in basketball, I think Swiss Army knives are everything. I mean, you look at Scottie Pippen, how he helped put the Bulls over the edge. You look at one of my personal favorites, Andre Iguodala. I mean, we all look at the Warriors because he won on those teams, but before that, he played 9 seasons and made the playoffs 6 times. He was an Olympic gold medalist in 2012. Like, he was a winner, and that helped the Warriors. I think even Draymond Green is in that similar category, and they have both of those guys. You look at, I think, Ben Simmons, even with the Sixers. I know his career has kind of fallen off, but every season he was a Sixer, they made the playoffs. Unfortunately, he couldn't play in the bubble, but all 4 of those seasons, they made the playoffs. I think Alyssa Thomas has that exact same effect. So when they got her this summer, I did kind of have an inkling that, like, okay, the Mercury are not ready to tank or what have you. They're really trying to stay afloat, even when they lose somebody like BG and obviously Diana to retirement.
Right.
I thought that was a great pickup. And even Satu is amazing. I think she can be even better. I think her shooting 39% at 6'4" isn't ideal. But I think if I'm her, I know they're close in age, but if I'm Satu Sabali, I'm looking at Nafisa Collier and I'm like, that's my ceiling. I think similar makeup, similar structure, similar game. I think if she can get into some of the go-to moves that Nafisa does on a nightly basis, she can be even better.
That's music to my ears, Des. I love that. No, Satu was a great pickup. And this roster, before we kick it to Brad, this roster being constructed to be more of a Nate Tibbetts team. I think with head coach Nate Tibbetts, there was still this worry that, the Phoenix fan base hadn't fully acclimated to him yet. His hiring was really in the news. It was very polarizing. And then last year, lots of ups and downs. Like you pointed out, Des, by the end of the season, kind of a mediocre season for BG, DT, and company. And for this year to really lean into, they want to play an up-tempo style of ball. Again, they want to kind of design this team around a big 3, which feels like a bit of a relic. I couldn't have been more wrong. It's worked out well. And to your point, Des, a lot of that is due to, at the very forefront of this organization, Alyssa Thomas, the proverbial Swiss Army knife, as you mentioned, and then an emerging Satu Sabali coming from Dallas, not having a great year last year, and then coming to Phoenix and really embracing being one of the faces of the franchise. It's worked out so well.
Absolutely.
Well, I wonder if that's a cultural shift too, because coming out of Dallas, we see what Dallas is doing right now, right? The Wings are not having a great season, and I think that they don't have bad players. They just have there's just something missing there where it just feels like this has to be an organizational thing. But Copper, it was Ka last year is all I could think of. Was you have BG and you have the GOAT. You forget Copper is there, and she had kind of a breakout year last year. So coming into this year, it was like she's probably going to be the team's MVP. And it turns out like they didn't need her to be the MVP because they're just really well rounded now and balanced.
Right.
And yeah, you have that big three, but it's like it's spread out more. So you're not putting it all on your one superstar. You're building a team up from like within. And all I can think of is a absolute Detroit homer here. All I can think about is that team where it's like, no, you don't have a superstar on this team, but you're spreading everything out enough where you can take down the Lakers, right? Like that's kind of the vibe that I was getting with this team. There's nobody I can point to and be like, this person was the greatest college player I've ever seen, or this person was. There's not a Caitlin Clark sitting out there. There's not Bueckers sitting there. There's not Sabrina sitting there. There's this team that's really good together with a really good chemistry and a really good balance. So I think I wasn't sure how it was going to go this year because you lose those giant pieces that have been there for a long time. And all I can think is, rebuild year. And now it's this. Yeah. It's crazy.
I think we, the Phoenix Mercury fan base, Brad, I don't know that we would have been mad at that, of course. And Des, I know you feel the same way about your beloved Chicago Sky. We like the teams you root for to be competitive, but given that BG's no longer here, Diana Taurasi's no longer here, I mean, faces of Arizona sports, we would have been okay with a rebuild year, but I think as a fan base, this has just been such an incredible surprise.
Yeah, for sure. But even then, speaking of surprises, like the Valkyries, I mean, another team where I was like, I'm sure you watched that expansion draft and when they laid out all the picks, it was like, all right, it's not going to be that. It's not going to, it's going to be nice. We'll enjoy the logo.
Respectfully.
The Golden State, they're going to get their fan base. It's nice to see them have a team when the Warriors aren't playing right. Like they're taking everything out of Oakland, so it's nice to have a WNBA franchise. But it's like all of a sudden this team is competitive, and then it's like not just one game, but now they're actually competitive for consecutive games. And you blink and it's like, oh shoot, they can make the playoffs. I think I definitely didn't have that on my bingo card.
Yeah, and Des, you mentioned it here. The fan base support has been critical. Obviously, they chose the right head coach in Natalie Nakase. You and I have spoken off air, Des, about how much we just really love her as the HC for this team. You get the fan buy-in. Brad, my expert on Viking lore, this idea of, okay, it's Valhalla. We sold 10,000 season tickets. That's a record for the W. There's so much momentum around this organization. And like you said, Des, and this is from your days of playing ball as well, Mr. Powell, the chemistry component of all this. All three of us, played youth basketball back in the day. Sometimes it really isn't just the team that's most talented. You'll have that team that has some ballers, but has that chemistry. And I think that's made a world of a difference for Golden State. They've adopted this team identity led by Natalie Nakase and having this rabid fan base in the Bay. And it's led them to possibly a playoff berth in their inaugural season. I did not expect that. And I thought I was pretty optimistic heading into the year for Golden State.
I love everything you guys just said was great. And Valkyries, by the way, great team name for this, because Valkyries, by the way, great team name. The Valkyries guided the souls of the dead to Valhalla. So it's the only one that makes sense to me, where everybody's like, yeah, Valhalla. Tyler and I were talking about Valhalla before we recorded GI earlier, a name important to your school that you're headed to, used incorrectly. I kind of feel like it works here. They have surprised all of us, and they're carrying their victims out with them. And nobody really saw it coming. Nobody really saw it coming.
Tough. Any thoughts, guys, before we move on to expansion and Cathy Engelbert talk? Any thoughts on where we're at with the Las Vegas Aces? If this is part of a prediction or question for you later, tell me, chill, and we'll get to it, and I'll respect that. But any thoughts on the Aces? Because it was not long ago when they were seen as the most feared team in the league. And we were talking about, dynasties, and you had Asia Wilson, arguably the best player in the world, still on the Aces. You had Chelsea Gray still on the Aces, but you also had Kelsey Plum, obviously Jackie Young still there. So you have a lot of those foundational pieces still on the team, still led by head coach Becky Hammond. But this season, they, by all accounts, are a lot more mortal than they were in previous years past. Des, you want to kick us off there before we move on? Thoughts on the state of the Aces and if they can right the ship?
Yeah, man. I think so. I think that's been the critique with the Aces, though, right? Like you said, on paper, and even sometimes off the eye test, it's like, okay, the offensive pieces for the most part are still there. So what's the deal here? And I think that's been the thing. It's the other side of the floor. And looking at the stats, it's like you realize they've had 6 straight seasons of deep playoff runs, let alone playoff runs, deep playoff runs. And I think it was kind of catching up to Asia, how she's been battling with some of the injuries, still playing great basketball, but crazy enough, not even nearly what she was doing the past couple seasons. But I think that's catching up a little bit. But I think defensively, as we know, there are 13 teams in the W right now. The Aces are ninth in defensive rating. The last time they were ninth in defensive rating was 2018, the year they also didn't make the playoffs. Every other season outside of that has been a top 5 defense. So I think if the eye test didn't show it enough, the stats certainly say that defense is the issue with the Las Vegas Aces. And I think even losing somebody like Alicia Clark, for example, great defender, and you don't have that. And I thought, and the crazy thing was with the Aces, I thought that they lost so many locker room pieces. We talked about chemistry just a little bit ago. They lost so many locker room pieces. Alicia Clark, Kelsey Plum, Sid Colson. I think even that plays a role in just the overall morale of the team. So maybe it's kind of going towards their energy too. Like you had these people that put a batter in your back and they're not in the locker room anymore. I think it's a lot of that going on with the Aces.
Yeah, well said, Des. The defense has clearly been I think the first sign to point to with this team. But I love what you mentioned about the chemistry piece and some of those players who, maybe aren't necessarily a top 3 or top 4 player on the roster, but contributed so much in the locker room. That's fantastic. Okay, fellas, we got to talk expansion. I think Brad even may have teased this a moment ago.
I had to bring it up. I had to. Yeah, I'm so excited.
As you should. I love this for you. Des, you pointed out we have 13 teams currently in the association. That is going to change very soon because in case our viewers are just tapping into the W, there is an incredible period of growth right now for the league. These cities are all getting teams in the next several years. Next season, we're going to get Toronto. Cleveland is getting a team. Detroit's getting a team. Philly is also getting a team. And at the same time, you have a lot of critique around WNBA fandom regarding Commissioner Cathy Engelbert and how, okay, the league is expanding, which is very exciting for numerous reasons. But at the same time, there are many franchises currently in this group of 13 that don't necessarily have the same resources as others. For example, one thing I will give Matt Ishby a credit about is investing in the Mercury, building the practice facility, making sure that the players have facilities that are, not even adequate, but comparable to their male counterparts.
Really nice facility
at the PHX Arena, not asking a ton. But when we think about the Los Angeles Sparks, the Connecticut Sun, I mean, there are several teams around the league. I think even the Chicago Sky, Des, at the moment, as of this recording, don't necessarily have that infrastructure yet in place. So we're bringing in franchises, we're adding cities, but what about the pre-existing players and franchises? So I want to hear and we'll start with Brad. I want to hear your guys' thoughts on expansion. And Brad, if we're fully back with the Detroit Shock in a few years, but then also this potential, and maybe we're already here, potential Cathy Engelbert villain arc, because it seems like in the next couple seasons, there's going to be a story here really to follow with regard to Engelbert and, how she satisfies the needs and concerns of everything that's happening with regard to this exciting time in the W. So that preamble aside, Brad Winchester, Detroit Shock. How excited are you?
I'm very excited. I hope
assuming they're the Shock.
I hope they change the name. I like the Shock has always been a confusing name to me because it's a car town. You have the Pistons there. It's not anything else. It's not like the Detroit seat covers. So not even naming it after the shocks on your car, right? It's Shock. It's just one wheel gets a spring. I've always thought it was weird, but the logo was also electric. So I always thought it doesn't make sense for Detroit. There has to be something new there. If they go back to the Shock, though, I'm not going to be mad. I mean, I'm here. I had Tucson Roadrunners season tickets for hockey when they first came back, to a nod to the Phoenix Roadrunners instead of going with something original and new. People like comfort and familiarity, and I'm sure there's still a lot of good vibes around that team and the nostalgia around that team. Where do they play? Where did they go? Are they going to shove them in the Pizza Arena? Like, where are they going to? I just hope they do them right now that they're going back to Detroit. They had talked about moving them outside. And so I wanted to say Rochester Heights was one of the places they were looking at for the Little Caesars Arena. Obviously, Little Caesars, the Red Wings, the arena downtown, that family has had money and investments in those sports for forever. And then you have the Fords with the Lions. Who fronts the money? Where does it go? Where did they play? And are they going to have a good facility? It's all I really want for them. You know, like I have nostalgia about the Joe Louis Arena because the Red Wings won there and played there forever. I don't want them to end up in a place like the Joe, because that place was falling apart and smelled terrible. Just because it has nostalgia doesn't mean it's good. So I'm hoping they treat them well and get them in there. But I'm super stoked for Michigan to get a WNBA team back in the state. I gotta imagine that Supersonics fans in Seattle right now are tearing their hair out, like looking at all these expansion teams going to the WNBA and going like, we can't get an NBA team back here. Like, why can't we have nice things? It's hilarious to me that they still don't have a Supersonics team back in there in the NBA, but I digress. Here's what I think is cool about this more than anything else. We know that signed the new media rights deal last year for, was it $2.2 billion, I think, for over 11 years. It's $200 million a year for the WNBA, which, you know, when I saw the billion number, I was like, wow, that's incredible. What is it, like a 5-year, 6-year deal? No, it's an 11-year deal. Okay, it's 200 mil. Adding expansion teams doesn't necessarily mean that money is going to increase to the teams and to all the different states that have invested in these teams. I don't think it's a bad thing, though. They're going to get sponsorships. They're going to do all these things. And what's really cool is we're even having this conversation. If you go back a couple of years, are we talking about this? Like at all? You know, to go back 4 years, 5 years, the product was still really good, but people weren't invested in it. Now they're selling places out consistently. There's the possibility that, you know, what's really cool is like everybody was like, oh, Caitlin Clark. And now they're like, well, no, but this player's coming. It's Bueckers, it's Angel Reese. It's I'm finally acknowledging Sabrina. Like all of these different players are showing up and they're selling out arenas. That's so great because I was looking it up. Alyssa, let me see, who was it? I think it was Thomas. Yeah, I think it was Alyssa Thomas. She's the highest paid player on the Mercury, and she's at $215,000.
Right. Some of these rookie contracts for top rookies, $70,000.
Yeah. So you go down. It's Thomas Whitcomb, locks of Bonner at 78,000.
That's right. DB is on the Mercury now. Yes. Of course.
Yes. Yeah.
Exciting. Let's go.
There's a lot of movement. Arizona's own McDonald now moving around. She's on the Fever now, right?
On the Fever, that has found a home in Indiana.
Yeah, really, really cool.
Shout out.
So I think that overall this is an incredible move because more teams means more revenue, means more jobs, means more eyeballs on the product, which means more local investment. Because like if you're in Michigan, who's your team? Who are you rooting for? It's Chicago's right next door, but there's not a lot of people in Detroit that are like, yeah, I love me some Chicago teams. And then if you go into like Wisconsin, you got nothing but hate in your heart up there for like Chicago teams. So it's just a strange place. The Midwest is a strange place in general. So I'm excited that they're getting more teams. You're getting Cleveland a team, Detroit a team, and all of these are like possibilities that are on the docket, right? We don't know for sure, but it sounds like this is where they're going to land. And then Philly, Toronto on top of that, a Canada team. So I don't want to keep monopolizing time. I'm so excited for Detroit. I'm so excited for Michigan in general, but mostly I'm excited for the women, and I'm excited that the product continues to grow and will, you know, I don't want to say it's going to surpass anything. I just want it to compete with everything else because women's basketball is a ton of fun.
Yeah. Before we go to Des, Brad, to your point, just to add on, we also have an alternative to the W in Unrivaled. right?
Yeah.
The startup league founded by
Mhm.
Breonna Stewart and Nafisa Collier. And again, there are some feelings about, well, should Cathy Engelbert in the league like promote that and help that grow? Because, that's a very different style than the W. So yeah, like you said, Brad, not only is the league on fire right now, but we also have an alternative that is fun and that is making waves. It's a great time to be a fan of women's hoops and really hoops in general.
Mhm.
That being said, Desmond Powell, thoughts on expansion, thoughts on a potential villain arc for Cathy Engelbert. Where are you at with this exciting time of growth for the league?
Yeah, so just real quick, I think Brad, the thing about the Detroit Shock, you guys won. If
Yes.
you just
That's the thing. Yeah.
if you lost a few of those, maybe we would be the seat covers.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, you had Swin Cash out there,
Yeah,
she was
yeah.
hungry to win, so
Mhm.
I think that's just why that happened. But jokes aside though, I think as far as like the Cathy thing, I think Brad mentioned this too, like at the end of the day, I remember when the TL was in shambles every time somebody got cut, whether they were a star or a role player or a college star, whatever it was just in shambles because we just knew there were not enough teams. And I think now she's working to bring these teams in and at a pretty good rate. But now, again, like to Tyler's point, you still think about, okay, well, we're getting these teams, but what are the facilities going to look like? Where are the teams going to play? I think it is a little bit tough. I know I joked in our group chat, like I think Cathy's just like, well, don't complain when I'm giving you what you were complaining for before. Like, I'm giving you guys asked for expansion and now you're complaining about the money. So now if I switch to the money, you're still going to talk about expansion. Like I got to do one thing at a time
Yeah.
here. So I think as funny as it is, I think, to be honest, especially with this CBA coming up too, I think the villain arc is definitely ascending, but if she handles it the best way she can, she could probably avoid it. But it's tough right now. I'm not gonna lie, it's a little
And
tough.
Des, to add to your point, even how to market the league as well. Shout out
Mhm.
to the great folks who are covering the W. I know close to home for us, Brad, Erica Day
Mhm.
of PHNX Mercury, PHNX Sports. There's been a lot of criticism, Des, of even just how the league is marketing its players. I think that's also a potential villain arc as well. Is okay, we have these stars, we're building these new stars, but is it because they're doing it on their own on social, or do they have the backing of the W? And not just Caitlin Clark, but Jonquel Jones, and name the
Hmm.
player who has the bona fides, but maybe hasn't necessarily received that backing from the league in years past. But you're cooking, please
And
continue.
and dare I say it, I think sometimes even Asia doesn't get as much.
100%.
Let's
I'm
talk
like,
about it.
100%.
sometimes it's a little weird. Like, and even for me, I get guilty of it. Where like, I was just on Mike Steph's show, and I didn't even think of her as like top five. I guess because I was trying to show love to everybody else, but at the same time, at the end of the day, when you think the WNBA, we should be thinking about Asia Wilson the same way we used to think about Lisa Leslie. Point blank. Period. And sometimes that just doesn't happen. And even like when you look at Nike, right? They had to really get in the lab and be like, okay, we're gonna make sure her shoe rollout is like this Clips album right now because we went a long time without her getting a shoe. We all, like fans already think it's been long overdue, things of that nature. I think even a couple seasons before that, they had the commercial to market the new season, and it felt like that was like a finally moment for Asia where she was featured a lot throughout that commercial. I felt like even then that was like, oh, finally. So yeah, I think that's a great point, Ty, as far as like the marketing of the players. I think there's still so much they can do across for a lot of the teams and the players.
Yeah. Well, and Des, I think this is a great moment to transition into sneaker corner. What do you think about the current sneaker releases? And this is really expanding not only across the W, but also in the NBA. So you mentioned we have the long awaited release of the A1, Asia Wilson's debut signature sneaker with Nike. Sounds like you were very pro the A1.
Huh.
I thought it was a fantastic rollout personally, but this isn't about me. This is about what Des thinks. You also in the NBA have the Dame 10s being released. Former Milwaukee Bucks star Damian Lillard releasing his 10th sneaker with Adidas. And part of what I loved about that rollout is he made it a point to tell Adidas, hey, I want this signature sneaker to be under $100, which I thought was incredibly cool. It reminded me of my days with the Starberry sneakers by Stephon Marbury,
Starberries. Oh
those
my gosh.
$15 joints. I
Yes,
don't think
yes.
we give him enough flowers for that. That
Yeah.
to me was just fantastic. And although $95 is different than $15, I thought it was incredibly dope that Dame made it a point as part of the campaign to say, hey, if folks are going to spend their hard-earned money on this for themselves or their children or whomever, the days of my shoes being 120 or 140 or whatever other competitor sneakers are going for, I want to make sure this is priced at $95 or less. So Sneaker Corner, Desmond Powell. We got the A1, we got the Dame 10. Of course, we got the Sabrinas. What say you? Which sneakers are you liking this year?
Yeah, great point about the Dames. I think, and even the Starburys. Allegedly, they're coming back. I did see that on Instagram. Allegedly, they're trying to come back.
Word.
But I don't know how legit that was, but I did see that. Allegedly, they're trying to come back. So
you saw the scoop. Okay,
yeah.
We got to monitor that.
Yeah, but I think as far as the Dames specifically, again, I think you said it, Ty. It's just like that era. He's thinking about the kids who have to wear those shoes for everything, where they're multi-purpose, right? Like I remember growing up, I had tons of shoes. Like I had Shaq shoes, everything. It was everything. It was gym class. It was throughout the whole school day. My brother had Carmelo's, gym class, and the school day. Like it was never how you see nowadays. You have your hoop shoes and then your casual shoes. Like we wore those things everywhere for everything. Baseball, not even basketball, right? Baseball, kickball, you wore them for everything. So I think
multi-purpose.
I think Dame was definitely thinking about those kids. So I love that move. The A1s, they look great in person. Like I think obviously Ty, you have some pairs if I'm not mistaken. But when I was in the city for the Kendrick concert, we went to one of the Nike stores or whatever, and just seeing her huge poster, with the flexing the grill, with the shoe and everything, and just getting that kind of fanfare, I was like, wow, like what a time is it for the WNBA, really, like that we can see that, because Maya Moore should have got that. You know what I mean? There are a lot of players that could have got that. Obviously, going further back, Cheryl Swoops, I know hers was a big deal too, but like it was really dope to see her getting just that attention for a signature shoe where she's like front and center the minute you walk in the store. I love that. But yeah, her shoe looks really good. She's got some good colorways out right now. I like those. I think even the Dames are looking good. I like the Devin Bookers. He had a great rollout because he didn't rush his second shoe. He let that thing ride out for most of the year.
Desmond Powell, can I tell you, you just read my mind. About 10 seconds ago, I thought, wait, we need to get your take on the book ones. This has been a point of contention in the friendship of Brad Winchester and I.
The most
where do you
overhated
stand on
shoe.
the book one? The most overhated shoe.
Overhated shoe right now. Now obviously those first few colorways, it was like a little boring. That's how they start anyway. You got to start boring to build up the hype. But I was like, that fits exactly who Devin Booker is. He drives these old school cars. He's a pretty mellow, chill dude. So he wanted a mellow, chill shoe where you couldn't even tell the difference from afar if it was a casual shoe or a basketball shoe. I thought that was right up his alley. And then he eventually came out with more colorways, and he made it a point. He said in interviews, like, I don't want my second one out yet. Like, I really want to get the kids more colorways. I want to tell more stories through the shoes. So I think he had the most underrated rollout of a signature shoe we've seen in quite some time. So yeah, I think there's a lot of shoes out there, but as far as signature off the top of my head, those are ones that come to mind.
I'm sitting in the silence right now. Tyler's waiting for me to say something here. I don't disagree with anything you said. I just said, like, when I look at them and I say, like, oh, those are basketball shoes. No, they're not. That's my first thought. I see them and I go, no, they're casuals. And that's the whole point. And I get it. That's been my only point of contention, is like, it looks real weird with the basketball uniform on. They look great. They look great otherwise. Right. Yeah. Like that's the difference. And that's all I was saying.
And some of the colorways
were bad. Yeah.
Some of the colorways are ambitious.
Yeah.
They're the ones where they're based on Arizona cities and towns, the Sedonas, the Flagstaffs. It's like, okay, I see what the vision was here, but not my favorite color.
I would love to get a pair and just wear them at school and just. I've legitimately been thinking about it. If the Asian ones were ever in my size, I would have picked them up, but they were out right away. And I went back on Nike's site for this because I wanted to check it out and see what was available. The great news is basically anything over a men's 6 for most of the colorways, you cannot get them until you get to like the 13, 14 territory, because men and women have been gobbling these things up. It goes from a men's 8.5 on the kind of the pink, gold, and purple ones, the a women's 10, men's 8.5, and then nothing until you get to a men's 16, women's 17.5, like just nothing. So small feet down. And like average size feet, they're just all gone. And I just think that's really, really cool to go on a website and see this kind of first thing. If you go back in time and think about like what people were making even then, forget like how little women are comparatively making now. Imagine if Cheryl Miller would have had a shoe deal back in the day. Arguably, like she might be one of the greatest players. She is one of the greatest players. She might be the greatest player ever. You take her out of that era and plunk her in here now, I still think she's super successful. Like, I still think she's balling out, but like she should have had a signature shoe a long time ago. I still think they should do it. Get her to sponsor that. I think that would be dope as hell.
That would be fire.
Yeah. Right. So seeing this makes me super hopeful because I've been wanting to get a pair and they're always out. So, and I'm not spending $250, $300, $400 on the aftermarket for a pair of shoes.
On StockX.
Like what 115, I'm already going like, how mad? How mad's the family going to be at me for this? Yeah.
That's a lot of bread. That's a lot of money.
Wait, but
and oh yeah, Des, after you.
Well, you go ahead, Tyler, because I was going to flip back to something we said about Devin Booker, but
no, I'll actually cover Devin Booker and Asia with this comment. I don't know. We don't know yet about the A1s, Asia sneaker, because like you said, Brad, they've just been on fire this year, which makes me so happy. With the books, they were very hard to come across when they were first released. Right. But then as more colorways were introduced, and the kind of conversation continued swirling around, are these hot? Are these not? You saw the prices start to go down. I think right now, as of this recording on the Dick's Sporting Goods app, some of the colorways can be purchased for $60 or $70. This is the Sedona, the Flagstaff, and some of the other ones, but it's kind of that game as a sneaker consumer. Okay, it's popping right now during the first few months of the launch, but if I wait long enough, not only will there be additional colorways that maybe I like more, but maybe some of the previous releases will go down in price rather than, like you said, Brad, rushing to, the aftermarket or StockX or what have you and dropping
getting the pythons on eBay.
Yeah, dropping grocery money on on a pair of kicks. But Des, you were going to say, and then we'll move on to Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese.
Yeah, another thing. Did you guys see that the Booker 2s leaked?
No,
at least the mock-up picture. It's like on paper. You saw it, Brad. If you said what you said about the book 1s, you're gonna look at these and probably be like, okay, are we going to like Sunday dinner or church or something? Like, I like Ty. Let me know, because it's like it looks like a brownish with a light blue swoosh. Yeah, and I'm like, it's giving Meet the Parents Sunday dinner.
Sunday's best. Yeah.
I want to be comfortable when I meet her father. That it's like one of those things. Because I'm already going to be an
Is it? Are they tan with like a turquoise trim?
I think that's what it is.
I'm looking at them right now, and they have like almost like an epoxy garage floor coating outsole. I don't know how else to describe this. That's really funny.
It looks like he took after the book 1s a lot. I think we're seeing that a lot in the sneaker game too.
Oh, I see them now. Yeah, I was definitely looking at a different pair. Now I see them. I almost thought they were Adidas because there's the stripes on the side.
Yes.
Under the turquoise swoosh. Yeah.
How are you gonna K-Swiss a Nike? Like I was like, I don't know, man.
Some British Knights down here.
Well, that would be something to keep an eye on. Yeah, like you said, Des, the rollout of book 1 was interesting. I would say well done by most accounts, but just this point in Devin Booker's career has also been, it's interesting that he was supposed to really be on this ascension after the 21 finals. He gets his own signature sneaker. He really is a household name in basketball now. But the Suns and his trajectory haven't quite played out, I think, the way a lot of us, particularly in Arizona, anticipated. So we'll see what becomes of the book 2 in that release. But we'll have to have you back on, Des, around that time to get your thoughts. But something we definitely want your thoughts on as we transition here. Okay, so new stars in the W. This is year 2 of Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. This also happens to be the first year of Dallas Wings star Paige Bueckers. Des, we want to start here. What are your thoughts on these three players, and more specifically, we have these storylines of the Indiana Fever winning the Commissioner's Cup without Caitlin Clark. Shout out to Brad for mentioning the Arizona Wildcat, Ari McDonald. Okay, Indiana about a 500 team right now, but maybe they gain some momentum with Caitlin Clark back, and maybe they make a run for the postseason. In terms of Dallas, again, we have Paige Bueckers, but that team is not very good. I'm curious who's going to be the first to leave the Wings. Chris Coquelin, first-year head coach. Dejanay Carrington. Maybe Rike Agumbawale, not really the best fit with Paige in the backcourt. Des, we also want to know your thoughts on Angel Reese's popularity in your home state of Illinois. So wherever you'd like to take this, we got 3 star players to discuss, and we would love to hear where you're at with each of them.
Okay, yeah. So, all right, in my brain, let's go Angel, Paige, Caitlin.
Perfect.
Okay, so as far as Angel, what I loved about us drafting her is that like the excitement was there from the jump. Like, and the thing about Chicago sports, especially in the recent years, I can't speak on hockey too much or baseball, but as far as like basketball, we haven't gotten a lot of the bigger names. Like even Matis Buzelis on the Bulls, that was somebody who was projected to be a higher pick, but slid a little bit. So even then, I feel like a lot of people were iffy on him. But to get somebody like Angel Reese, who already had that off-court kind of fanfare, was really great. And I think a lot of people hopped on the bandwagon pretty quickly, you know. And I think it helps when the player wants to come to that city. I think Angel was very vocal that she wanted to come to the Chicago Sky after she was drafted. So it worked out. I think for her to come from that, you know, coming from Baltimore is like New York's cousin to a certain degree. So it's a lot of blue collar mentality. And I think being in the Midwest, I always say we just fall in the middle a lot of times. We're not as flashy as a California. We're not as loud as a New York, but we do have a lot of the similar grit. So I think that's 100%. Why it was a match made in heaven. Yeah. So I think for Angel, she knew she wanted to come to a city like Chicago, where I always say when every rebound, every loose ball, it's like the fans they do it with you, you know? So I love that for her. I love the situation as well. I think she's grown tremendously this year. I think they finally realized that you're not Zach Randolph per se. You are Candace Parker. Like, we got to let you bring the ball up. We got to let you operate a little bit more off the dribble. She's been great in the dribble handoff actions with Ariel Atkins. So that way you have somebody like Ariel who can shoot the mid-range, or you can have somebody like Angel who can keep the ball and drive. Like, it's a lot going on. I think they've done really well with high-low actions. So obviously you'll have Angel Reese in the high post, or maybe behind the 3-point line. They'll run a play for Camilla to be down in the low post. They'll get her the rock, sometimes vice versa. I think for them to be the centers that they are some really good passers. So a lot of that works. Again, similar to what we saw with Marc Gasol and Zach Randolph back in the day. You have one of the big men is a really good passer, and the other one is a good post presence. And the good thing about the Chicago Sky is that both of those players can do both of those things. It's not like a either or situation. So I love what they're doing this year, even though the season hasn't went as well as we hope. But I'm so proud of the way she's bounced back from that rough start. You could tell that her joy wasn't there. Her spark wasn't there. She got it the minute they started incorporating her in the offense in a different way, in a way that's more suitable for her play style. So I love what I'm seeing from Angel Reese. I think she's really stepping into that, like, okay, like I figured it out.
And being much more aggressive. She had it was at the end of the game the other night. It was just like, she just took that ball and just took over, got fouled and won. And I was like, I texted Tyler immediately. I'm like, dude, that was crazy. It was one of the most, and that was, I had just listened to a podcast, and it was a lot of talk about Angel Reese hate. And, you know, like, is it deserved? Is it not? Is she falling off? Then I turned that on, and it was like, I think she just answered everybody's question about that. But go ahead, back to you. I just had to say it.
It's all good. It was amazing. It's all good. No, I was done, man. I just think I love what I'm seeing from her. I love the growth. Like, and I'll even add, like I know I told you this, Ty. Like, I had a post last year for Angel, and that was me looking ahead. Like, I'm seeing the glimpses of this. Like, she reminds me a lot of Candace Parker. They killed me for it. It was peak Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese conversations on, and it got. some noise on Twitter, and I knew I should have known off rip that that was a red flag because that never happens. But but now I look back on that and I'm like, that kind of is aging kind of well now because they finally realize what suits her best. So yeah, I love what I'm seeing.
I found some stats before we got on. I just wanted to cap this on my Angel Reese, and then Tyler, I want to hear your thoughts here too. Most rebounds this season. Ready? Angel Reese 255. Most without me bounds. Angel Reese 228. Through 3 quarters, Angel Reese 182. This is from at Polymarket Hoops. I saw Sarah Spain retweet it, and I was like, this is it. So people that are hating on her for not like getting involved in the game enough are paying attention to the right things, because
Exactly.
yes, they're not looking at the offense the same way, but like you can't dispute she has the most rebounds in the WNBA right now in multiple categories. I didn't even go through the whole list. So it's wild to me that people were hating on her so much when it's like, first of all, it's her first year. Not everybody's going to come out of the gate super hot, and it's a totally different position than what you're looking at from Caitlin Clark or anybody else really. So
Facts.
they're playing. It's not, you can't just be like, oh yeah, Isaiah Thomas. I'm going to compare eras here. Isaiah Thomas and Robert Parrish. Like, you can't just point at 2 different people playing 2 different positions and be like, they're not the same. This is wild. It's like, yeah, they're not the same. They have different roles. Like, you can't compare 2 different things like that. It's crazy.
Is different. Well, first, I love that Reebok is positioning Angel to be a centerpiece of their basketball division resurgence. I saw Shaq has that new show. Basically, it's propaganda for Reebok about how he's bringing it back. And I was really disappointed.
Yeah.
I tuned in the first to like, oh man, this is right up my alley, and then it was good until it wasn't.
I knew when they got Allen Iverson on camera again. I'm like, it's not what I think it is. It's just Reebok promo.
It's just Reebok propaganda, which not mad at. I just did not tune in for episodes 2 through however long that series is. So shout out to Angel getting her first signature sneaker, which I believe is in the works as of this recording. Yeah, I'm intrigued by the Chicago Sky. I would say probably less confident than Des that long term it's going to be Camila Cardoso and Angel Reese playing for this franchise. I could definitely see Cardoso being moved at some point within the next few years because Angel Reese is the face of the franchise. I would love to see the Sky, Tyler Marsh, head coach and company, lean into Angel playing more of that point forward type role, because she'll have some passes during some games where I'm like, oh man, that's right. Angel Reese can get busy with that setting up her teammates. She'll do the goggles celebration. I'll be like, you know what?
Yeah.
I think we need more of that instead of just putting her, on the low block every single time. So I'm optimistic. I certainly don't think they're going to make any noise during the second half of the postseason. Sorry, Des. I'm sorry. The second half of this regular season. I thought they'd be more of a playoff contender, but I don't necessarily see that moving forward. But a team that is a playoff contender, the Indiana Fever. Des, how is year 2 of Caitlin Clark? Again, she's been battling injuries, but she's back now. Where are you at with year 2 of Clark? And moreover, do you see the Indiana Fever being the Commissioner Cup winning Indiana Fever being a legit postseason threat?
Yeah, I do. I think, and I said this before, I think that the Indiana Fever are, a lot of people kind of wrote them off early, and I didn't really know why. Like, and these are like respectable names, and it's not like I felt no type of way about it, but I'm like, I had this feeling where I was like, I just think the Indiana Fever, if they get the opportunity, they can do something special, because I just feel like, because of Caitlin Clark's rookie year, we all saw like, okay, even on surface level, okay, she can have the same impact she had in college. Like, you want to build your team around a talent like her. So they got those pieces. They brought in Sophie Cunningham. They brought in, Lexi Hull has developed. Aaliyah Boston has developed her chemistry with Caitlin Clark. The pieces are making sense. And even watching their game today versus the Dallas Wings, like, I think they can do a very similar thing to their NBA counterpart in Indiana Pacers. Like, yeah, don't be fooled by our regular season record. Caitlin Clark was in and out the lineup. We had some chemistry things that we had to balance out early in the season, which always comes with new acquisitions. Just wait until we get to when this thing really matters. I wouldn't be surprised at all if the Indiana Fever were able to pull off something like that. And as for Caitlin Clark individually, I mean, again, I think she is a tremendous talent. And I know there's been a lot of talk of how she's guarded. And that was something that I did want to get into a little bit. But I think she absolutely has the talent to be, when it's all said and done, one of the top WNBA players ever. Like, she has that kind of talent. And I think a lot of times, especially on social media, we get too wrapped up in some of the other conversations that we kind of forget what we're watching. And y'all know me, like, I just refuse to miss the moment because of some pettiness. Like, like I want to enjoy her career and the growth that we're seeing. So yeah, that's just my brief thoughts on that.
Well, also releases for the Fever too, right? We were talking about the Mercury earlier in the show, and because of releases from the Fever, we got DB in Phoenix. So there's a lot of things that happen, and that I remember when people were like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe they made this move," but it's like, well, yeah, but now look what they've done with it. There's probably a lot of questions still about how they can do in the postseason, and Caitlin Clark's been fascinating. I don't want to talk about it. I want to hear what you guys think, though. And Tyler, I want to know your thoughts about the Fever, but I really want to hear what your thoughts are about how Caitlin Clark is guarded. And I can't wait to hear you guys talk about this. I'm really excited about this. It's one of my favorite things. One of my favorite moments from this year was the previously mentioned Mike Steph, when we did a recording together. I asked if that foul was a deserving of a flagrant foul.
The Caitlin Clark on Angel Reese foul.
Clark on Angel Reese foul. And simultaneously, Tyler, yes, Mike, no, at the same time. And it was just like, I sat back and was just like, I just wanted to throw the grenade in the room and see what happens. It was amazing. So I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm totally pro Caitlin Clark. The electricity that she brings, as you pointed out, the skill set. I've always been attracted to players who have that passing gene. To me, what can separate the good players from the great, because all of these players are amazing. But what separates you from being good to great, in my personal fandom, is, do you make the people around you better? Caitlin Clark did that at Iowa. She's done that with Indiana and will continue to do so. So I love watching her. I love the style of play. Obviously, it's exciting. It's been a total boon for the W. It's also brought on a lot of toxicity, at certain arenas, as you pointed out, on the timeline. So to me, that's all kind of tangential to her. I don't view that as necessarily being something that she eggs on necessarily in any real way. She's just a hooper, right? She's a stone cold killer. And wants to rip your heart out and pose and keep the wrist up while doing it. So I'm totally here for that. Yeah, exactly, Biz. I actually picked the Indiana Fever before the season to win it all this year. I'm still gonna stand on that. Obviously, they have a lot of ground to make up, right? And we got So I thought DeWanna Bonner would play a pivotal role in making that prediction happen. As you pointed out, Brad, we benefited because now, as a fan base here in Phoenix, we have DB returning to the organization, but Arie McDonald finding a home in Indiana and fitting like a glove. Obviously, you brought
really
in
for
Steph,
everybody, right? Like, it's crazy.
For real. You brought in Steph White as your head coach, knowing that she has that pedigree of being able to get a team to the mountaintop. So I'm still very optimistic on the Fever. Of course, this is assuming health for their key players, namely Caitlin Clark. Bringing in Sophie Cunningham from Phoenix was a great choice. Her being the enforcer, talk about leaning into a villain arc. Sophie Cunningham being the enforcer on the team.
Yeah.
And knowing, if you commit that flagrant on CC on 22, I'm going to be coming for you on the next play. She had that dust up with Jason Sheldon earlier in the year. Mm-hmm. I think Indiana really needed that, and I'm still going to stand on them winning the title this year. I know it's a bold prediction, but I'm optimistic, particularly with the Commissioner's Cup. I don't know that we've seen a big track record of Commissioner's Cup victors going on to actually win it all, but I think that was a really promising sign that they were able to do that without Caitlin Clark, and they beat Minnesota, who we'll talk about momentarily, to make that happen.
That's a statement game right there. Statement
game, Des. So I love Caitlin Clark's game. I totally co-sign what you guys said, and Indiana will definitely be a team to watch. And again, they're about 500, just under 500 right now, so they got some work to do, but I think they're going to be in the conversation.
Do you guys feel like that kind of fire and that kind of, I don't want to call it hate because I don't think it's hate, but like that no, I hate that team, I hate those rivals, I'm going to dig into that and commit to that, is something that has helped the WNBA draw eyeballs, because that's been one of the complaints from old heads that watch the NBA. Like I'm thinking about it, like keep referencing early 90s basketball players. Is that rivalry, that spirit that's kind of baked into it, that we don't like that team because it's that team, that exists a little bit in the NFL still, where, you know, Green Bay, Chicago get together, you know, there's still going to be that thing, but I think it's mostly the fans. But when you see it on the court, because it's 5-on-5, it's not like that 11 lineup, and then we switch in a different 2-11 squad come out. No, it's this 5-on-5 thing with people rotating on the bench. And when you see a player just jump in there as an enforcer, like you said, Tyler, you suddenly like, well, that's kind of like getting hit with a pitch and then the pitcher retaliating. But
Of course. Yeah.
But in basketball, it's just different because it's so, you're not throwing a ball at somebody, you're throwing a U at somebody. Like you
Right.
are getting in there and it's just like the crowd gets invested, and suddenly it's like,
Yeah.
nah, now we're in this because this is personal. You know what I mean? Like it's
Right.
not a game anymore.
And the Sophie corner of this all,
Mhm.
and I know dear friends of mine who are diehard Phoenix Mercury fans who have a bit of a contentious relationship with the Sophie Cunningham experience in Phoenix. But to me, this was best case scenario for Sophie Cunningham, is her being this enforcer on Caitlin Clark's team. I think Sophie Cunningham could be in Indiana for years to come and fit that role that was really needed for Indiana, not only with the head coaching change. I kind of think Chrissy Sad's got a raw deal, but along with the head coaching, some would say maybe upgrade, you know, really positioning the roster around Caitlin Clark and figuring out what she needs and what can help propel her to title contention, because she's ready. I mean, we saw last year, like she just arrived and said, no, like, I don't just want to put up points. I'm coming for the throne, which again, I love that that's part of her personality.
Yeah, and you know, Brad, I'm thinking about what you said too. You are absolutely right, because even when I watch games, like after you watch most of the NBA season and then you transition to the WNBA, you watch some of the games and you're like, wait a minute, this is scratching an itch that I had as a kid. Like
Yeah.
these girls are cussing each other out.
Yeah,
They're fighting for loose balls. Like, wait a minute, this is different than the NBA. As much as I would love to see it in the NBA, it's in the WNBA and it's all year round. It is regular season and playoffs.
Yes,
And
it
I think
never
that's what
stops.
it
It's
is,
so
Brad.
good.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. I
Yeah.
think that's what it is. But you know, when I think about Caitlin Clark, and with that in mind too, I think this is a solid segue when we think about the playoffs. Because my thing with Caitlin Clark, if I had to pick something out, and again, I want to preface this by saying, like, I understand the whole thing over the years, right? Where it unfortunately it's been projected on women athletes that they can't be passionate, they can't show emotion, right? So when I say what I'm going to say, I don't mean it in that lens. I mean it from more so a leadership standpoint. So like when I watch Caitlin Clark, I immediately think of something that my mom always told me and my siblings: never let them see you sweat. And sometimes I think Caitlin lets these opponents and whoever see her sweat. Sometimes she for when I watched her rookie year, I was like, and even in college, she is a lot more Luka Doncic, James Harden than she is Stephen Curry. Because of her gravity, because of her playmaking ability, because of her being the primary ball handler, I think she shares a lot of those same attributes. And the thing is with a lot of those players is that they gave their defenders a reason to not be physical. So when you watch James Harden, it's the size up, it's the tween cross. He's putting you to sleep. So the minute you react, he's gonna dictate his move. If you step just a smidgen back, he's going to go into his step back jumper. If you come too close, he's going to blow by or even take you with your arm and draw that foul. He's going to take you with him. He gives you a reason to not play physical. Same thing with Luka Doncic. He's a bigger body, of course, but very similar attributes. He lulls you to sleep with his dribble moves. Tween, step back, tween. He's just waiting for either the step back jumper or the layup inside. And Caitlin, while she does have a good handle, I feel like she doesn't give a reason to say, like, back up off me. So it shows up in her emotions. She has to talk to the referees. Her teammates have to step in, things of that nature. And my thing with Caitlin, especially as we approach the playoffs, I fear that the Indiana Fever are not going to learn to truly win in this league until she understands, like, okay, nah, let me lock in up here. They're going to hit me. We know this. They're going to hit me. It's going to be unfortunate, things of that nature. But I got to stay locked in up here, because if I'm a defender and I'm guarding Caitlin Clark, I know she can pull up from the Gainsbridge Fieldhouse logo. So I have to guard her 94 feet. I can't give her any space, right? And then even and as a defender, you have to think of the moral victories, right? Like, when you're guarding somebody as great as Caitlin Clark, it's not even just let me get a steal, let me get a block, not even a shot contest and make her miss. It's literally every step. Okay, I got over that screen. Oh, this time she didn't touch the basketball for the whole possession. Like, these are the things you have to track as a defender. So I think that's why you see a lot of that physicality. And I think even the Valkyries Coach Nat, she said, like, we were able to win because we did the things that Caitlin Clark doesn't like. We forced her left and we were physical with her. And the more she shows that she doesn't like it, you're gonna eat that up as a defender.
Yeah, of course.
You're gonna eat that up. Like, oh, she don't like Shaq always says, she don't like that funk. All right, I'm on that every trip down. I'm on that every trip down. So I think that's my thing with Caitlin Clark. Like, on some big brother type stuff, I want to see her, like, grow in that way. Like, okay, we're used to you and how you're reacting. That's cool. Show emotion. That's awesome. But now we're gonna make them pay on the court. We're gonna make them pay with the rock. So that's what I want to see her do.
In terms of the Dallas Wings, I just want to have this on record. Paige Bueckers is a total star.
Yes.
She's been awesome so far this season, even though the team record doesn't reflect a lot of success. I want this on record that I think those three people I mentioned in Dallas will find new homes next season. I think this offseason, Arike, Dejanay are playing somewhere else heading into next season. And I think Chris Koklanis, I think it was good until it wasn't, but it was never really good. I think they're going to tell him to kick rocks and he's going to be gone. Des, I've shared with you that I'm not very high on.
That's an understatement.
That's an understatement. Yeah. I just think he will be happier and more successful elsewhere. Not saying he wasn't ready to be an HC, but I think Dallas's roster and infrastructure is going to look different next year. But the one certainty is they're building the entire franchise around Paige Bueckers, which makes all the sense because she's already proven she's legit. Okay, my next question for you guys. This is going to be my most straightforward so far. We're thinking about the second half of the WNBA regular season. We're thinking about the postseason and eventually crowning a WNBA champion. My question for you, and Brad, I would love for you to get us kicked off here. This year's champion, the Minnesota Lynx, the New York Liberty, or the Field? Who are you taking?
Oh, man. I don't think it's going to be the Liberty. I think it's I kind of want to say the Field. I want to see somebody else step up. I'm hopeful for Phoenix. And there's just a lot of teams that just seem to be on the rise. There's in the W right now, it just feels like the lows are low. They're low and the highs are high. But there's a lot of parity otherwise, where it just feels like any team could sort of like, and we're off on a stretch where we're unstoppable against anybody, as long as people stay healthy, right? Like you mentioned Paige, like she wasn't healthy to start and needed a while to get going. But that team, I don't think that team had a shot to begin with. Again, I think it's a cultural issue. But if I had to pick either Minnesota or New York, I'm going to go Minnesota out of those two, but I still think that the Field has a chance here, and I would love to see the Field. Will I? I don't know. I kind of feel like maybe not, but just playoff experience and everything else. But I would love to see the Field here, and I don't know out of that who I would pick right now. It just feels the second half. There's a lot of ball left to be played here, so I don't know who's going to come out on top.
Yeah, Brad,
I like that answer though. I like
that. Des, talk to us.
Yeah, I like that answer. I like, even though I was leaning more towards the Liberty, I actually think they can, and I think what it really is just my bias towards Natasha Cloud. I think when you get a player like her, it's just winning. You know, like to know that they don't have Benija Laney for the season, but you get Natasha Cloud who can give the same energy, if not more, the same defensive intensity, if not more. Like, I love that in a playoff environment, but I do feel what you're saying. Like, it in some ways you don't necessarily want to say the phrase, but it's like it is a little bit wide open because you just never know. It's a lot of sleeper teams in the Field. So yeah, I think I would pick the Liberty, but I'm with that too.
Well, and guys, the past few years, it's felt like a foregone conclusion that the winner was either going to be the New York Liberty
Yeah.
or the Las Vegas
Yeah.
Aces. So
Right.
this is such a different time to be a
Mhm.
W fan for lots of reasons. But I think particularly now, Brad, as you pointed out, because it does feel like, okay, obviously the Minnesota Lynx, top record in the league, they're heavy favorites. New York Liberty defending champs. Des, you mentioned the incredible acquisition of Tosh Cloud. I know she's one of, if not your favorite player in the entire league, with good reason. But then, Brad, as you pointed out, we got teams, heavy hitters like the Seattle Storm, the Atlanta Dream, Brittany Griner's new home. They're nothing to mess around with. The Mercury, the Valkyries are going to be a team that I don't think anyone wants to play. So
do you guys think the Storm? Do you guys think the Storm and the Dream are they in the same boat? I feel like they are, because they have.
You think they're on the same tier? Okay.
Yeah, they have good stretches, but then they'll lose to a team. You know what I mean?
Seattle got blown out by, I forget the team the other day, but it was
it Connecticut?
It may have been. I mean, it was a double-digit forceful.
I'm checking it out right now.
And the Dream,
it was jarring.
The Dream just lost to the Fever. You could argue that they should have won that game. I think both of those teams are just on the, when I watch the Storm, you can pretty much tell whether or not they're going to win if they play defense. Another team that's so good offensively, but when their defense isn't aligned, they usually lose it.
Right. I trust in their veterans, though. If your team is centered around Skydig, I know one of your favorites as well, Des. Check out H2DG for great content. You got Skydig, you got Nneka Ogwumike, you got Gabby Williams, who I want to bring up here in a moment. I have a lot of trust in that team just having that veteran know-how come postseason. So I'm more inclined to have Seattle kind of creeping up into that tier, but I actually have Minnesota and New York being on a tier all to themselves. And I would say under that, we have Phoenix, we have Seattle. I suppose Atlanta's ready to creep in. I need to see a little bit more. Obviously, first-year head coach Carlos Mesco, but I'm not ready to put them in the same tier as New York and Minnesota. To me, those two teams are kind of in a league of their own. And I have Minnesota. If I'm to answer this question, Brad, you're leaning the field, Des, you're leaning New York. I'm actually leaning Minnesota on this. Again, I'm sticking with my original prediction of Indiana, but of this group, I just think come postseason time, Minnesota is going to be so motivated, assuming they're healthy, and they know that they had the finals stolen from them last year.
Yeah,
I love the W. I'm usually not the fan. I think it's actually pretty despicable.
It was rough.
I think it's pretty despicable when folks blame the refs, whether it's high school, college, or the pros. That's such an easy, I'll blame the Zebras. I'm not really here for that. But for this conversation, I am, because it was clear that Minnesota got fleeced last year by the refs. And I just don't think we talked about it enough. But alas, I think they're going to have that extra motivation of, we feel like we got this stolen from us last year. Cheryl Reeve and company even alluded to that in the post-game presser. I think they're just going to be out for blood come the playoffs. And if not Indiana, based on this question, I'm kind of convincing myself that Minnesota is going to get it done come this postseason with, Visa Collier being on a tear and the like.
I'm looking at some of these scores here, and it's on June 29th. The Valkyries beat the Storm 84-57, but then they lost to the Sun on July 9th, 93-83, and then beat them on the 11th, 79-65. So total 180 right there.
Yeah.
But they beat the Liberty on July 6th by 9, 79-70. So it's one of those teams where this is why I'm saying it could be the field, because on any given day, if you go on a stretch and the Liberty don't feel as good as they did a year ago, 2 years ago. So that's why I don't want to pick them over Minnesota or somebody else from the field. That's why I'm kind of leaning. I want it to be field. I'm leaning Minnesota, but I want it to be field. But I also have a lot of people that in my life that are Minnesota fans in general of sports that have had some Timberwolves sadness, and then last year what happened. So I kind of want it for them, but also I kind of want it for Tyler. I kind of need Tyler to get another Phoenix championship in his life here, because it's been, no pun intended, living in the desert. It's been a drought. It's been sad.
I sure hope so, Brad. That would be incredible. And interesting to note here, we didn't even bring up the Las Vegas Aces in this conversation, which again
Yeah.
is just, I
Yeah.
think, very fitting of where we're at with that team. And as Asia Wilson hits free agency in a couple years, I believe that'll be a situation I believe to keep an eye on. Okay, our final two, I guess we'll call it categories at this point, gentlemen. We have to each select one player who we want to give their flowers to this season. I would love to kick it off. This was really tough for me. I want to give an honorable mention to Seattle Storm star Gabby Williams. She is a first-time All-Star. She tore it up overseas, and then during the Olympics, really reminded folks, "Yo, I was a top 5 pick, drafted to Chicago back in the day. What was it, 2021? Not too long ago. Things didn't work out in Chicago nor LA, but now she's back, and just really so happy for her success." That being said, I would like to give my flowers to Big Al, Alicia Gray of the Atlanta Dream. To me, her star has ascended over the last year. Not only was she the biggest winner of All-Star Weekend 2024, 3-point contest, All-Star game itself, but now she's just not a cool story or a really great role player in Atlanta.
Yep.
She's the face of the franchise. I would even argue ahead of Ryan Howard. To
I feel the
me,
same way.
and that was not a thing a year ago, but now it is. The team needs to be structured around her. So Big Al is getting my flowers. Des, who you got?
Yeah, so I actually had Alicia Gray as an honorable mention on mine. You just said it. Everything you just said is pretty much what I had. I also had another one, and I also went with a Storm player, but I went to Nneka Ogwumike. I feel like she's another one. As her longevity, I feel like still just isn't appreciated. I think going back to what we talked about earlier about the overall marketability of the individual players, for her to be, still a all-star caliber player, sometimes even MVP caliber player, this long into her career, I think just doesn't get talked about enough because she's not the loudest superstar or anything like that. She doesn't have the flashiest game, but she still does a lot of the things that we've seen the majority of her career. So I wanted to shout her out. But the big one that I picked was Kayla Thornton off the Valkyries. For her to be a role player her entire career, I mean, at 32 years old, like no individual accolades. She's got the championship with the Liberty, and I think a Commissioner's Cup with them as well, if I'm not mistaken. But that's it. If you look at her resume, and for her to be 32 and now has this opportunity with the Valkyries to where all of a sudden she's got this greater role, 15 points, 7 rebounds, I think like 1.5 steals. Like she's really showing a player that we hadn't seen before, and I think it's a bigger example of why I'm so big on growth, especially in today's era of basketball, because we're seeing a lot of longevity now. And I just really try to get people to understand, I get it. A lot of times we watch these players and it can be easy to just be like, okay, that's who they're always going to be. But I just think there's a lot more room for growth, and you never know how the situation can change nowadays with all the player movement. And like I said, just new opportunities individually. So I love what she's doing with the Valkyries, and first time All-Star, another one. So yeah, I had to give a shout out to Kayla Thornton.
Awesome. So I didn't want to go too super generic here and just be like, I'm picking Angel Reese. I'm picking Caitlin Clark. I am picking somebody along those lines though, because the comparisons kept happening in their first matchup. I'm going to go Paige Bueckers. Paige Bueckers coming off injury and into the W and really being an exciting player. And the comparisons between her and Caitlin Clark, kind of unfairly. I know they played against each other, and every time they play against each other, it's a lot of fun. But a lot of people talking about her and who's better in this play and who has the wins against her. They're not on the same kind of team. They're Paige is not playing on the Fever, and I think she had 21 points against Caitlin. Caitlin, I think, is probably right now a better defender, and Paige is maybe better on offense. I don't know what's going to happen long term here, but it's super exciting to see her. I want to give her flowers because she's on a terrible team, just a really bad team, and she continues to show up, to work hard, to grind, to try to win. And a lot of people being faced with that, especially early on. I think about NFL quarterbacks who get drafted and then don't get that year or two to sit behind a veteran to learn it. It's just like, no, you just get in there and go. She has not nearly the same level of pressure that Caitlin Clark had on her, but she has a huge amount of pressure on that team being the star that's supposed to sort of save the team, and then putting her on that team and then not having the success to continue to show up and to continue to grind. I'm really impressed with her composure in press conferences, on the court. It's been awesome to watch. Super excited for what next year looks like. I don't want to write them off already, because it's like, anything can happen. It's not a super duper long season. So as we head into the All-Star break, but it's man, she's so super fun to watch. Very high hopes for her. I don't think anybody could dispute that she's a star, but she's going to continue to grow. To your point, Des, I think her growth is going to be astronomical. She could end up being one of the greats all time by the time her career is over. So I'm excited to see her continue to grow. So not enough. I know people are talking about her, but I don't feel like enough, because the team isn't winning. So wanted to give her flowers.
No, that's well said, Brad, because I feel the same way. Like, and I think there was the graphic ESPN put out. It was like a couple weeks ago during one of her games, but her first few games, it was like 14 points, 6 assists. Then it eventually evolved to like 24-4. And I think that is a testament of coming up in UConn. Like, she plays the game the right way. She got the respect of her peers at the snap of a finger. So it's like, I think you see a lot of that. Like, most rookies come in and they try to do everything really fast, but she was really patient. And I think it showed in her assist numbers. Like, all right, I'm chilling. I want to fit in with the team. But after a while, it's like, okay, I think I can be a little more aggressive. I think I can show more of my game. And it's been really cool to see that progression in just her rookie season.
Yeah, well said.
No doubt. All right, guys, we have the final category here. Very excited to hear what you think. Biggest question and boldest prediction. So, Des, we're going to start with you. We'll start. How about this? We'll start with each of our biggest questions, and then we'll conclude the conversation with boldest prediction. Desmond Powell, what is the biggest question you have for the second half of the WNBA season?
Oh my gosh. So if you notice, I was trying not to smile so big when you were talking about the Lynx, because all I could think about was my big question. And like, you went in and I fully agree with what you said. But my big question is, are the Lynx who we think they are? Because the way I look at it is, as great as they play. So again, they had the tough defeat in the finals. They go to Unrivaled, and Nafisa Collier and Courtney Williams are on the same team, the Lunar Owls, and they go crazy. They lose in the playoffs. They are the best team in the regular season this year. They lose in the Commissioner's Cup. And so sometimes I'm like, there's a little, while very short, there is a little bit of a pattern there. And I'm like, I hope the Lynx do not turn into one of those teams that are so amazing in the regular season, but for some reason, something happens in the playoffs that makes all of that go out the window. And so my thing is like, are they who we think they are? Like, and I want to say yes. I think they are that dominant, but I don't know. I got weird energy when I think about the Lynx. And like I said, coming off the off season, I felt like they should have been doing whatever they could to get Drew Lloyd. I'm like, and granted, that has worked out tremendously, because Drew Lloyd has not had the greatest season. But I'm like, when you look at the way the Liberty adjusted to the Lynx, Kayla McBride had a great first half in that finals game. Quiet that whole second half. Courtney Williams couldn't buy a bucket. Nafisa, it got to a point where she was doing so much by herself, it was taxing on her. And I'm like, they just need one extra girl that can get to a shot. I was hoping that was going to be Alyssa Peely. Comes today that she's waived. So it's like, I'm like, if they find themselves in that situation again, again, experience is the greatest teacher.
Yeah.
But like, I'm anxious to see how they respond. I really am.
Mm-hmm. That's a great point.
Yeah,
Brad,
To your point, I actually agree with you, because my biggest question is, can they rebound? No pun intended here. Can they rebound from last year? Because you see it with teams all the time, and a lot of the times it's you lose. You gotta what's the old saying? It's like, you gotta lose in order to win. You get there and then you lose, and then you can go back, and that's the thing that motivates you to win. or it's the thing that causes you to miss the playoffs or lose in the first round or whatever else happens. We see that in sports all the time, usually in, one-loss sports. But I want to know, can they get back there, have that pressure again, and still maintain composure and win, especially if they're confronted with if they get confronted with another team that feels like, oh, they're getting the calls and whoever that may be. But are they going to be able to not lose control in those situations, pop off at a ref and get teed up, or at another player, or what happens? So that should be really, really interesting. My boldest prediction, I don't know. Nancy Lieberman steps down as head coach and makes a comeback. I don't know. I got nothing. I'm just kidding. She absolutely should not do that. Although I bet she could still ball. I bet she's still really good.
I wouldn't doubt it.
She's like about 60 years old now, but I bet she could go in there and maybe that's what the Lynx need to get over the hump. She could finally get a paycheck deserving of her talent. Yeah,
that would be an amazing story. I would be so here.
I'd be tuned in. I would be seated. Yeah,
I would be seated.
Nafisa, you better pass it to Nancy. What are you doing?
Yeah. Well, she's still coming. She's still running down the. Yeah.
Yo, too much. Okay, this was actually the toughest part of our conversation for me, preparing my answer for this biggest question. I have three. Obviously, two will be honorable mentions. First, I want to know, will Haley Jones find a home in Dallas? I see she's with the Wings. She was released from Atlanta. Des, you and I have talked, I think, definitely off air and maybe on air, about the Haley Jones experience in Atlanta and just how that didn't necessarily go the way that she had hoped. She spent some time with the Phoenix Mercury this season. She's on Dallas currently. So she's still so young and had such an incredible career at Stanford that I can't see a world in which she doesn't find a home in the W. So thinking about Haley Jones, I also want to know how Mike Kelsey is feeling, Kelsey Plum. The Los Angeles Sparks are not having a good year. As of this recording, they're 5-12 and nowhere close to sniffing the playoffs. So I wonder how she's feeling. And I thought she would be a great fit for the Golden State Valkyries heading into this season. I wonder if there's any thought in her mind of, man, like my former assistant coach, Nat, with Golden State is killing it, and I'm with LA and we battled injuries, and she just she has the green light, certainly now being the vocal point of LA's offense, but this I would imagine has not been the season that she had hoped for. So thinking about how she's doing, the question I'm going to ask you guys though, as we prepare for the Toronto Tempo to enter the league next season in 2026, I hope the timeline doesn't come for me with this question. I want to know, is Drake going to be included in the rollout, in the marketing efforts of the Toronto Tempo? I would imagine this probably won't take full force until after the season, but I'm curious, Des, and I want to make sure we cover this because we teased it in the opener. The attempted Drake comeback here, I cannot go anywhere, Desmond Powell, and not hear Nokia, who's calling my phone, or now, what did I miss from Drake? So particularly the conversation around Drake during the summer of Not Like Us, thinking about what he means to Toronto, but thinking about, should he be included in the rollout of the first women's professional basketball team in Toronto? I feel like there are going to be some important questions to answer. So I'm really putting this as my number one to ensure we get Dez's thoughts on it. So timeline, don't fully come from me like that. Des, first, do you think Drake will be included in this rollout of the Toronto Tempo? And moreover, what have you thought about his attempted comeback now that we've surpassed a year since the beef with him and Kendrick effectively concluded with him losing?
Okay, yeah. So I'll do so I'll answer the Toronto Tempo one and then do my bold prediction. Then we'll get back on the other part. But
perfect.
I think even more now, he has to be a part of the Toronto Tempo rollout because he's going to be looking for things to revive his spirit and his career, you could say, after the whole Kendrick thing, right? Kendrick just went on tour, even though those songs are about a year old now. He just went on tour. So Drake is actively going to be looking for opportunities to get back in good standing, if you will. And, he'll probably drop a song, all my girls move with Toronto Tempo. He'll have a bar about it. You know what I mean? Like, and it'll be nice, but I think he is going to be, I don't think as big as like what he's doing with the Raptors, but I think they will incorporate him in some way, shape, or form. And then as far as my bold prediction, I think you kind of alluded to this too. My bold prediction is that because of what they've done this season, the Golden State Valkyries are going to be rewarded with a big free agent this summer. And that to me is either going to be Arike Ngumbawale as she looks for a fresh start. I think I'm right with you, Ty. I think this to me looks like the last straw of her time in Dallas. So I think she's going to look at a team with a bunch of hungry role players and be like, okay, yes, they need my scoring, but I need their energy. So I think they could get her. But I wouldn't sleep on Kai Copper as much as I would love for her to stay in Phoenix after what they did this year. Like I don't see how you leave after that. But yeah, I think either one of those two women are going to be Golden State Valkyries. That's my bold prediction.
I love it. I'm actually glad you didn't take mine. I'll just throw mine in, Brad, and then we'll conclude with you here. My bold prediction, we're going to stick in the Bay. I say the Golden State Valkyries win their first playoff series. I'm fully locked in.
I almost went with that.
Listen, I'm saying it with my chest.
But I looked at the standings and I was like, wait a minute. I think it's going to be like
it's going to be tricky.
I think the Dream, I forget who was third, but I was like, I don't know.
Yeah. And obviously I'm still a little uncommitted on, okay, am I going Indiana? Am I going Minnesota for my actual pick for the finals, which I guess clearly through this conversation I'm still working through. But I am certain that Golden State not only, again, makes the playoffs in their inaugural season, but will actually win a playoff series.
Well, I already made my bold pick about Nancy. Now I don't really, I legitimately couldn't figure out a bold pick for this. So I had a really hard time with this one. So I guess I'll just say, because I'm a homer again, I'm going to say that the Mercury make it. We'll just say we'll make it out of the first round for sure.
Let's go,
and we'll see where we end.
I'm here for.
I'm going to go
Let's
at
go.
least first round. Yeah. Okay.
I'm here for
now, so Toronto. We're not. I'm not going to talk about Drake here. You don't think that here's why. I have a different question.
Brad, he's back. Top 10 on Apple Music.
I believe you. Don't get me wrong. Like we were voting for people for after nefarious things happen. Like, of course you can do stuff with allegations. It's easy in America or Canada. Now Toronto also has another talent there. You don't see the tempo coming out to Blinding Lights by The Weeknd. You don't. So The Weeknd, and I was looking up. I had to go through like what are the Toronto artists, and there's a bunch on there. I was like, yeah, none of these. And then I got to The Weeknd, and I went, hey, it's not a bad, because like Drake for sure. The roster is probably like, yeah, of course. Why wouldn't you want Drake to be involved in this? Of course, right? The team itself. I don't know how PR feels. I don't know what the temperature is in Canada about this. I don't know if Canada was Team Kendrick or Team Drake. I have no idea. You know what I mean? Like, what was Canada's temperature check here?
What was the Toronto tour stop like for the GNX concert? As you attended the concert in Illinois, what was it like up north in Toronto? It's a great point, Brad.
Was it polite applause?
Yeah. Just a bit. And as Des said, Drake has been so intertwined with the Toronto Raptors. Mm-hmm. He's courtside. He's heckling the opposition. They're doing fashion releases with OVO. Exactly what you're saying, Brad. I wonder, in the next 6 months, in the next year, has Drake built up enough goodwill? Are the songs that poppin' where he's going to be a part of that rollout? I find it very, very fasciscinating.
I think it would be good. Don't get me wrong. I think it would be good business for everybody involved. I just think that, I wouldn't want to be the decision makers for the ownership group here. And it might end up coming down to a WNBA decision or even the marketing for whoever has the TV rights and contracts. Does Disney want Drake on their property? If it's going to be on Hulu or if it's going to be on somewhere else, Amazon probably doesn't care. But if Drake is the face on there, and then we had everything happen with Kendrick and what Kendrick said about Drake, do you really want to take the risk if something comes out that like becomes a problematic thing? Suddenly you have a real problem on your hands and you promoted it, and then it makes you look terrible from a PR standpoint, especially in a women's basketball league.
Women empowerment.
Yes. Yeah. So now they're all allegations and they're not legal ones, right? Like
correct.
These are allegations.
It's rap beef. I called you a pedophile. I put over a beef. Everyone was singing it.
The
there's not the
problem is
litigation
because
on that, right?
everybody is singing it, and it became
Yeah,
sort of the
yeah.
part
At
of the
WNBA games.
it's part of the cultural consciousness now that Drake is a pedophile because they performed that song at the Super Bowl. Like it's not just as simple as because people that are casuals, like people living in the Midwest a little bit north of you, Des, that look more like me are going to see that and go like, isn't that the guy that was that other guy was talking about at the halftime show? Like that like that probably isn't going to be a thing that happens, but I could see my dad asking questions. And that's absolutely one of the things I thought about is like, oh man, from a PR standpoint, you have Drake's cachet and fan base and his catalog. And wouldn't you want that as part of this specific culture to represent what you're trying to roll out? But over here, you have this other question mark.
Mhm.
And I don't know what the answer is to that, because the weekend would be safe, but it's not Drake. And
Right.
and
Yeah,
Toronto
yeah.
based, right? A
It's
local
different.
thing I think is be important. But if I think Toronto music, the first thought is Drake, and there's
And I
not
try-
even a close second.
And Brad, sorry to interrupt. I try to take as many informal polls as I can with women in my life periodically, especially now, about where are we at with Drake. And I find that a lot of them just want the music to be hot. And if the music is
Mhm.
good,
Mhm.
I'm going to add it to my Instagram post. I'm going to play it. I'm going to add it to my playlist. And then, people just want Drake to make good music. And now that he's rolling out Nokia and What Did I Miss? And a big part of this too, Des, I think, is Drake is capitalizing on making music and music videos that can turn into memes. Right. So there are so many memes now on Instagram of what did I miss? Like you come back from a 2-hour lunch to work and what did I miss? And it's just like, I think that's part of the calculus now when artists are making music is this going to get traction from a social media standpoint? Is it going to be on memes? And then again, perhaps that's softening Drake's image of, oh, there's memes. He's kind of getting back into the consciousness of us all. And again, if the music's good, I find that people in my life, but particularly women, have been more accommodating to, okay, we were laughing at him last year. We were all about Kendrick and Not Like Us. But if he's back and if the music makes me want to dance, I'm okay with that. But one point I wanted to add to what you said, Brad, you made me think of this. I think what's so awesome about where we're at is that the Toronto Tempo don't need Drake. Right.
That's
There's
true.
so much fervor around the league. I'm sure fans, and let us
Great
know here
point.
on
Great
YouTube
point.
or for our Canada folks who are tapping in, I would imagine there's going to be a lot of fervor, maybe not unlike what we saw with Golden State and the Valkyries. So how great is it that the Toronto Tempo don't need him? And I would imagine that, as you pointed out, Brad, PR, the shot callers, they'll be able to dictate whether this is business they want to do with this particular artist. They don't need him necessarily to move the needle anymore because we're all in for women's hoops.
That's a great point. Like, and even as I'm thinking about it, like I would much rather them, and kind of to what Brad was saying, I would much rather them deal with the consequences of tampering and put a big billboard of Juju Watkins in a Tempo jersey as opposed to a billboard with Drake saying, like
Yeah.
I can see it.
Yeah.
That was great. Guys, we covered a lot. This was fantastic. I'm so excited for the W second half. I'm so excited that we could get together for this. Des, before we officially wrap, I know you mentioned H2DG and all that you're doing over there. Please let us know. Please remind our audience how we can connect with you and support all that you're doing.
Yes, of course. As always, I appreciate you guys having me on today. It's awesome. I mean, I could do this all day. To be honest, man, I could do this all day, especially with you guys, man. Like this was awesome. But yeah, you could follow all things hip to the games at HIP the number 2 DAGAMES on all platforms: TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. That's where you can get updates on the show. A lot of the social media teases that I post on there. You can get all that there. If you want to, you can follow the personal at Desmond Powell _ that you get a lot of the same stuff, a lot of H2DG stuff, but in and out of my personal life, whether that's music, basketball, faith, whatever, I'm always tweeting during NBA, WNBA season. So, if you get overwhelmed, or if you get, or maybe, oh, Des didn't have an episode today. Well, Des is probably tweeting, so, it makes up for it. But yeah, that's where you can find everything with the podcast and follow that.
Fantastic. Support Des. We love him over here. And again, he does fantastic work, and you all should check him out. Please be sure also to follow us, if you're not already, at GIPod19 for exclusive show updates and more. We thank you for tuning in. Let's enjoy some great hoops this second half of the season, and we will see you next time. Gimmick Infringement is a part of 19 Media Group. You can listen to us on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you find podcasts. You can also find us on YouTube via the 19 Media Group channel. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share.